So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and today I'm going to give you my honest, unfiltered review of the iPhone 16 Pro Max after 2 weeks. Now, I've had this since launch day. You know that, and you should also know that I paid full price for this. This is my main driver iPhone right now, and it has been pretty good. I will tell you that it's been a pretty good phone. Does that make this an exciting phone for me coming from a 15 Pro Max? No, it's not a super exciting phone, but it's a good phone. It's still a good iPhone, and I feel like Apple continues to play it safe every year and not really push the edge of innovation. They kind of just bring the most fastest chips, some great cameras, and I'm not saying these are bad upgrades. They're all useful things if you use them, but at the same time, when you compare them to the previous years, they haven't changed the phone so much that it's like groundbreakingly different. If I'm being totally honest with you, the Z Fold 6 has been more exciting, fun, and entertaining to use this year than any iPhone I've used in to the past couple of years. The OnePlus Open also shares that same feeling when I use the OnePlus Open Apex Edition, 16 gigs of RAM, folding phone. I know it's a different segment, but I'm just trying to illustrate my point. I also had more fun with the Z Flip 6 this year. These phones, while they've been out for a while, folding phones, they're getting better and better, and they're just more exciting. So that's just something I wanted to state right away, to just be totally honest with you. I'm going to begin by talking about my initial thoughts on the display. The display has gotten more minimal bezels. Is it a life-changing difference for me from a 15 Pro Max? The answer is no. It's not. Is it bigger and slightly more enjoyable? The answer is yes, it is. It's a little bit more enjoyable. A little bit. Is it $1,000+ more enjoyable? Probably not. Especially if you're coming from a 6.7. But if you're coming from a 6.5-inch iPhone, your battery's trashed, you've had it for 4 or 5 years, you have an 11 Pro Max, you have a 12 Pro Max, is getting slow, yes, I think this upgrade will feel nice. That's just how I feel about it. With the iPhone 16 Pro Max. Let me take a look at my notes over here. I'm just looking at the specs. So the display, 6.9 inches. It's a 91% screen to body ratio. This thing also has 460 pixels per inch. So again, I don't feel like it's the sharpest display out there either. But it is a 120 hertz adaptive refresh. Although it doesn't fully go as smooth as some of the other 120 hertz competitors out there, it's still a really nice display. Honestly, what I've liked about it so far is that the 16 Pro Max has really good color reproduction. I don't think it's too vibrant. I don't think it's undersaturated. I think they've got this calibration pretty good. It just looks colorful enough without looking like overly saturated. That's just the best way I could put it. It does have a little bit of a yellowish look when you have True Tone on. So turn off True Tone and that goes away. So that's how I feel so far about the display. If I'm being real with you, I don't like the dynamic island obtruding on my display. But if I'm also being honest at the same time, I do like the features that the dynamic island offers. They are fun when you do use them. Like when you get a car or something and you press up there, or you have like an Uber Eats coming or something like that and you see it up there, or you have a timer, or you have something going on up there. I like it. I like the usability of it. But again, for media, it's not my favorite. So it's kind of like, it's bittersweet to me. Will I appreciate an all-screen iPhone in the future over this? Yes, I think an all-screen iPhone is more of the dream for me than this phone right here. But this is always on display. And one thing I don't like about the entire 16 lineup is, why do we only get always on display on the Pro models? We should have this on all the 16 models. I just think it should be on every single one of them. So I'm not a fan of that. And I'm just thinking about the people who are not getting the Pro series products. I will say I don't like how they made this phone heavier. Last year's 15 Pro Max was lighter. I thought we were going in the direction of premium and lighter. And titanium did reduce the weight, but we got heavier here once again. So I'm not a fan of this phone getting heavier and bigger. It is a cumbersome feel at first, and I don't think it's like something to complain about if you want a big phone. I like the big phone, and it's not like hard to use because it's heavier. I'm just saying it is heavier, and that to me is going backwards when your last phone was lighter. But some people will probably trade having a bigger battery for a little bit more weight. But when you start adding cases, this thing feels huge. It does. Do you adapt to it? Yes, we're very adaptable beings. We will adapt to using a heavier phone. But once you pick up something lighter, you'll be like, man, that thing was huge. But again, I understand the justification a lot of people make. If I'm going to pay $1,000, bro, I'm buying this phone because it has the biggest battery, biggest display. I totally get it. You're spending all that cash. Why not? Why not get the biggest and baddest on the market in terms of if you're looking for an iPhone? This is the biggest and baddest they make right now. So why not? So I get the justification. I've also read in the comments some people saying they like the stainless steel. As a matter of fact, let me bring in an older iPhone that had stainless steel. How about I bring in a 14 Pro Max, which some people argue looked more premium. Does a 14 Pro Max look more premium with its space black stainless steel? That's debatable. But they got rid of the silent switch and went to an action button. But back on the topic of the stainless steel, I don't personally like the stainless steel as much. Reviewing this after a couple of weeks, I do like this Desert Titanium. I like this titanium build. I've liked it since the 15 Pros because it doesn't pick up as much little micro scratches. You can't see them as easily. Fingerprints do pick up, but not very easily to be seen. The phone generally just looks more clean. The back material also feels pretty nice with the infused glass. Although some would argue some of the older iPhones that had actual glass backs were a little bit nicer. So like the iPhone 13 series with the base models having like an actual glass back, or you can go back to like the 10 when they had actual glasses, not color infused. Some people argue this material looks nicer. So that's something to think about. But personally, I like how the newer phones all stay cleaner. This one's no exception. It stays very clean all around the board. Is Desert Titanium, is these new colors of the 16 Pro Max, have they been, after past couple of weeks, exciting? No, they're dull once again. Desert Titanium is a little bit more fancy looking, and I do really appreciate how it's a nicer gold, I think, than some of the other iPhones they've came out with. I do like it, but there's nothing like overly zingy about this color. Like it's not like if they brought out a red, I personally want a red. I want a crimson red type color for the iPhone. I've been wanting that for years on the Pro Max, but we haven't seen it just yet. We've seen how product reds back in the day, but I really want to see a product red edition. That's my honest take. I don't agree with some people saying it's like a salmon looking color or it's just not a nice gold. I disagree. I really like this edge. I think it looks really nice, kind of bronze a little bit, kind of taking me back to iPhone 11 Pro days, if I'm being real with you. I want to talk about something else on the body, the camera control button. Do I feel like this thing honestly has been amazing? And the answer is, if you use it for pro photography, it actually is pretty fun and you get used to it kind of quick. Some of these features do feel gimmicky, if I'm being honest though. They do feel like they're just there to kind of like show off, but they don't really have a lot of functionality for me because I feel like they're slower and clunkier than just going like this. Why would I want to do and play around with this when I could just go ahead and go like this? So if I'm being honest with you, it is useful if you take advantage and you start to learn the ropes on how to use it and you're always taking photos in landscape mode. It's going to be useful. I also think that the iPhone's camera capture control button over here is very useful if you want to take a quick video and you don't want to miss a moment. Like hold it down, take a quick video. This might be the difference between missing a moment and not, because remember, with the older iPhones, if we go ahead and click the camera button, we have to go to video, click the video, or swipe over, and then you have to be in the preserve setting. With this, you can just kind of like hold down and just start taking the video and be on your way. So it can be useful in that respect. But other than that, I think the overall design, if I'm being real with you, it's pretty boring. I had to make a cut there because the phone just fell off the table. But the iPhone 16 Pro Max is definitely to me, a boring conservative design. Do I think boring is a problem? I don't think so if you just been liking the way iPhone have been looking. But does it look like phones from years ago? Yes, it does. Like, that's just the bottom line. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. But do I still think it's a beautiful phone? Absolutely, I do. Do I think it's still $1,000 level looks? Yes, I do. For it's still a top level premium looking phone. Is it overly exciting? No. See, I think the human mind is obsessed with newness. Why do you think everything that's new gets clicked on? This video right here is probably not getting as much views as it would on the first day because our brains are obsessed with the newness. And when you see the similarness or the sameness, it's just no. So like, I can get why a lot of people are not super fan of the same design over and over again because we want to see newness. Like everything in life going forward is always that's interesting as newness a lot of the times. That's just kind of like what we're wired to like be interested in is like, I mean, look at all the, like anytime a new story comes out, it's got all this attention at first. And then the next new story comes out and that last story was boring. So I get why this is kind of getting old, seeing the same look. We want to see maybe a folding iPhone, maybe a totally different camera design, a totally different build. But they're reaching that area where they're kind of like at peak smartphone. That's what a lot of people saying. And you're just seeing little changes year over year. I'm moving on to the display. We talked about it's being a pretty sharp panel, but I've seen sharper panels. I think if I'm being totally unfiltered here, I think the brightness should be higher because 2000 nits is now being superseded by other phones. It's not the brightest out there anymore. Apple should go a little bit brighter, especially for outdoors. I mean, when competitors like the Pixel has 3000 nits outdoors, this should be brighter, especially for this price. It's more money. So come on. Next thing I want to talk about is the software. So the software, to me, they finally added some customization features, and I like how they're opening up the software a little bit more to make it a little more fun to use. This is the most fun iOS software in years. It's actually the best ever because finally you don't have to jailbreak an iPhone to get some of these customization like features. It does feel, some people are saying it does feel more like Android than ever before because you can put apps wherever you want. And I agree to an extent, but not fully because Android's customization levels goes way more extensive and way deeper. So the software to me is still very vanilla with a few customization features. It doesn't go too deep. It's still tightly controlled exactly how you would expect from the iPhone experience. So that's something to keep in mind. I will say though that the iPhone over here definitely does have kind of a very, very nice like speed to it, but not like, it doesn't mean it has the snappiest animations though. So as we scroll through, everything looks smooth with the 120 hertz. Honestly, I just feel like it doesn't feel like the fastest phone out there with the animations, but it feels visually pleasing. It just does. And some people disagree with me, say, oh, I'll stop giving them credit for their visually pleasing. Like, no, it has really nice looking animations, especially on these ProMotion ones. That's just the bottom line. I've looked at a lot of phones out here and the consistency in the visually animations to the visual experience, it's just smoother than a lot of phones out there. There are phones that are faster and snappier and are catching up here, but this is still, I think, a strong suit for the iPhone. It's still a very smooth phone. Now, the A18 Pro chip, how do I feel about this after a couple of weeks? This thing screams. I've done some rendering. I've done some editing. This thing absolutely rips through everything. Do you need this kind of performance though? My honest feelings are no, you don't need it unless you are actually doing these things. And I've said it in my speed test before. If you don't use this stuff, you don't need an A18 Pro chip. A base 16 is enough for you. A base 15 is still enough for you. Heck, even a base 14 and 13 is probably still enough for you. If you're just using regular apps like regular people and you're not doing any rendering or heavy gaming. Heavy gaming slows those old phones down. And if you're not doing content creation or running a business or anything seriously heavy where you're popping between a bunch of apps at the same time and you're just relying this on it as a tool for your income all the time, I don't think this is necessarily a needed product. But there is a lot of people who do rely on their phones for big screens for GPS, fast performance because they rely on it for their work, cameras for their photography and videography to supplement their pro level stuff, gaming because they love gaming, they love attaching those little accessories to put the little controller on the side. They want to use the new emulation applications that came to Apple. Some people do that stuff. So I can get why a lot of people would still be very, very interested in this product right here. So performance, super fast. It's a screamer. Regular use doesn't really need it, but Don't keep in mind another thing I feel about this. Even if you don't use the power, if you're the type of person who's like, I'm buying this so I could have this thing for 5+ years and I need it to run that long because I'm not buying $1,000 phone every year, bro. I don't care how many videos you make. I'll watch them because they're fun to watch. Thank you for watching. But I'm still not upgrading every year. Having that screamer performance is really good. It pisses me off, though, that there's 8 gigs of RAM in here. This is ridiculous. We've had 12 gigs of RAM on some older phones years ago, like several years ago in some competing Android products, 12 gigs of RAM. I know they're not the same software. I know Apple uses NVMe SSD. They use fast storage and stuff like that, and they have really good optimization. But 8 gigs of RAM is 8 gigs of RAM. We should be on 12 or 16, especially on these $1,000+ phones. I mean, these are at Mac price territories, and those products have 8 gigs of RAM, but they're full-blown computers. This is a smaller product. It shouldn't be much to throw in some extra RAM. So that's something. I also don't like how much extra you got to pay for storage on any iPhone. That's something that bothers me. That's why I always go with the base model, which is a 256 gig right here, because I'll just offload the stuff onto an external SSD and keep it light and clean. So definitely that's how I feel about that. Now, how do I feel about the cameras? I did a camera comparison to the S24 Ultra, and I'll tell you a couple of things that blew me away with this camera. One is the 4K 120. This stuff looks amazingly smooth for a phone. Also, the video quality, what blew me away is how well these lenses stay smooth when going through them. That's a true thing that blew me away with this product. The cinematic mode, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even use it. If we go over here, spatial video, I didn't buy a Vision Pro yet. I don't plan on it anytime soon until they bring the price down. I'm not using that, but it's still, I still have to mention it because it does give you a new feature over the older phones. But is this phone, like the camera, like blowing me away versus the 15 Pro Max? The answer is no. They didn't add 10x zoom. They didn't go 50x on the zoom. They didn't add much when it comes over to from these 15 Pro Max. But over this phone, I would definitely feel like an upgrade from the 14 Pro Max. I like the macro mode, and I like all the camera controls that you have on this phone. If we go into camera, we go to formats, Pro RAW. You can do these different formats. You can do 48 megapixel ultra wide. I truly feel like the iPhone 16 Pro Max has pro level cameras for a phone. I think you also can get better performance if you go and download some of these applications like Final Cut Pro, Final Cut Camera. You can definitely improve the experience even more. Now, the camera control button over here, I talked about a little bit earlier. Again, if you set this up on a tripod, I do think it's pretty useful. I really do. And I do like how the ultra wide is matching with the main lens. I do think this phone has the best cameras ever. I mean, obviously it's the latest, so it does, but it does have some of the best cameras ever on an iPhone, and it's kind of exciting to see them continue to improve this. I feel like it's just getting better and better every year, and it is still exciting to see how they advance the camera. It's a little exciting, it really is, if I'm being totally honest with you. But that's not like the end all be all if you're not a camera person, but I definitely am. I mean, I use a real manual camera to make these videos, so of course I'm going to be into cameras and stuff like that. Doesn't mean you are, though. I'm gonna take a quick intermission. I said I wasn't gonna do no cuts, but I'm gonna get some water because I need a drink. So I'll be back. So here's my water, just so you know I wasn't messing with you. I'm gonna take another drink. And the mic's kind of close, so if you heard my sippy sip, that's what happened. But anyway, back to the cameras. Talking about the front one, I was not overly impressed with the fact that they keep bringing the same 12 megapixel. Google Pixel brought like a 50 megapixel. Apple needs to go to work here. I think they need to make this front camera freaking amazing, especially considering some of these foldable phones. You can use the rear cameras to take photos from the front. So I think those are becoming more compelling as selfie cameras. So if you do like to do selfies, I'm not the biggest user of selfie cameras, but I do like to have a great front-facing camera for vlogging. If I ever want to do talking headshots, I do those sometimes. I like to have a very good front-facing camera. So that can be improved here. Audio quality, I found on this phone to be really good. But does it impress me over the previous years? No, because the Pro Maxes before were also really good at the audio quality coming out of the phones. I will say the connections are incredibly quick though. Wi-Fi 7, this thing does have Bluetooth 5.3. It does have USB-C. And I know it seems little, but That's actually a big deal. Having USB-C since the iPhone 15 series has been really big deal to me. A lot of things I charge are USB-C, and if you switch between Android phones, Microsoft products, Google products, Samsung products, any other tech products, a lot of cameras use USB-C, MacBooks use USB-C. It's way more universal. I love having USB-C. Loved it on the 15 series. I love it here on the 16 series. And that's just the honest truth about this phone with that. I will say, after using this for a while, it doesn't charge super fast compared to some competitors. My OnePlus 12 charges way faster than this phone. So definitely not super happy with that. I feel like this can be faster. I also feel like under heavier use, this phone tends to get a little bit toasty still, although nothing like when the 15 Pro Max first came out. It still can get warm if you push it. Push this thing to its limits. It can get warm. It's not uncomfortable though. So they did improve the heat management. You've been hearing about that. That's definitely been true. I will say something that's been annoying me with this phone is sometimes I'll pull it out and I accidentally click the camera control button because it's over here. So if you're used to like gripping your phone pretty good and sturdy, sometimes you might accidentally press this, but you can solve this very easily by just getting a case, because a case will pretty much solve that problem. I'll put this MagSafe case on and you'll see there's like a little indentation on most of the newer 16 cases, so you won't be touching that button as much. I also found out something about this phone that I think is kind of funny. There's like 5 different ways to unlock the camera. One like that. You can go like this with the camera control. You can also make the action button a camera. You can also swipe like this. And not only do all those buttons do that, but check this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways to take a photo. I think that's just funny. That's kind of ridiculous. I mean, do we need that many ways? The action button being programmable, I like it more than the silent switch. I really do. I like to have that customization that I can put whatever I want there. So that I've been enjoying about this product. So yeah. Now, when it comes to the phone call quality, hold on, I don't want to give my phone callers numbers on there, but you'll see the phone call quality has been pretty similar, but I have to say that I've been getting a little bit better signal strength in some areas that I usually were spotty before. Is it way better than the 15 Pro Max? Not so much, but definitely better than some of the 3+ year old iPhones. So this is slightly improved to me. Also, 5G feels a little faster on the go, just a little bit, but not like life-changing stuff. It definitely doesn't feel life-changing, for sure. Battery life, though, on this phone, how good has it been? People are raving about the battery on this phone, how great it's been, and honestly, I do agree with them. This phone, I am literally like if I charge this to 100, I'm ending the day with like 65%. This battery is reminding me of the 13 Pro Max. I'm not even kidding with you. Even though it's a 4685, they're doing something in there. It's definitely doing very, very good here. As a matter of fact, it's so much better than the regular base model 16s to me that I was trying those out. I just can't. I got to go to this one. If you want the best battery, if you use your phone a lot, you want the 16 Pro Max. This thing's amazing. It really is. It's like a 13 Pro Max back in the day, but even better than that. So this is the battery champ right here if you want that long battery life. And I've been experiencing the same thing you've probably been hearing all over the internet about how great this battery is over here. So we covered the bases, camera, the battery, the design, overall. My honest take on this phone is that it has a conservative approach again with a similar design that we've been seeing for years. Some people are going to feel like they're getting ripped off because they're not taking advantage of what this has to offer. But honestly, at first, I was not super excited about this. If I'm being honest, I wasn't super excited about this at first. But now that I'm actually been using it for 2 weeks, I have to tell you, I have come to really like how much better the battery life is, how they have better heat management, and how they have just kind of like overall improved the bezels. Just the overall phone just feels more refined. But I know what you're probably thinking, but 15 Pro Max you had last year, same thing. I do have to agree. There is a lot of similarities. It's pretty much the same thing, but I like that it got better. So that's my final take. That's my honest review. It's a great iPhone. They've all been great. Most of them have been great. The Pro Max line has been great for years. This is no exception. Does this push the boundaries and innovate hardcore and just something totally new? No, it does not. Does that make it bad? No, it doesn't. Would I buy it again? Probably if I was coming from an older phone and I didn't do YouTube reviews, I probably would wait. If I had like a 13 Pro Max and up, I probably would wait. But knowing me, having the tech interest that I do, that Apple Intelligence honestly would have sold me. And speaking of the Apple Intelligence, you notice I didn't talk about that because it's not available. Does that piss me off? Yes, it did. So I wish Apple would bring the features they promise when the phone launches in the future. That's something I wish they would do. And so that wraps it up here for me of my honest 2-week review of this phone. I don't really have anything more else to say about this thing, honestly. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them down below. Let's talk about some old upgrades you want to come from if you don't. And I do want to answer one final thing before I head up out of here. A lot of people will say, but Nick, bro, should I upgrade from the older phone? And the answer is, if you are asking that question, that means something is interesting you about this phone. I recommend you go try it out at the store, play around with it for a little bit, take your old phone, compare it a little bit, and see if it's going to be for you. Also, you can look at my various speed tests. You can look at my various comparisons that I make, and maybe something will resonate with you there that you want to upgrade, or maybe it won't. Maybe something will say, nah, I'm good. Because at the end of the day, there's that little period where it feels exciting, and then it blends into your day-to-day life, and then it's no longer exciting anymore. It's just a phone. But for me, I am the type of person who notices every little detail about everything. So I will literally come over here and use this phone, go back to an older phone, and I'll be like, I'm missing my thin bezels. Like, I'm like that. So that's why I'm interested in this product. Anyway, thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts, honest thoughts about these 16 Pro Max, 16 Pro. Honestly, unfiltered. Let us know down below in the comments. Just keep it civil, and then I'll catch you all in the next episode. Subscribe for more. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.